You're good? This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Notice that this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County. It's been delivered to the Township Clerk and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Here?
Mr. Capello?
Here.
Mrs. Lindsay?
Here.
Mr. Cass?
Here.
Mr. Duarte?
Mr. Duarte should be here momentarily.
Okay. Mrs. DeLuna?
Here.
Mr. Nafaloni?
Here. We're going to wait on the pledge until we come out of executive session, but it's 7:02. Dino, do you mind moving us into executive?
Absolutely. If there are no objections, I move to convene executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss
Personnel. Legal.
legal issues. Minutes of the session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Do we have a second? Mike?
I'll second.
Oh, we got Mike Anderson.
Is Mike second?
Mike Anderson beat him to the punch. All in favor? Yay. Oppose? Abstentions? Again, 7:01 by my Verizon time. We are in executive session. Thanks, Wayne. All right, it is now 7:34. We moved into recess from executive session at 7:22, just for the record. And now are starting the public portion of tonight's meeting. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. Please rise. I'm sorry. I don't like that shirt. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is this working today? Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. You're going to do the,
Push the button.
you're starting that first part, right?
Yep.
All right. So we are now out of the executive session, and we are going to move into the special presentation part from Mr. Forte. How about Steve? Can I call you that instead?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
You guys
For the
got this,
self-assessment.
you all got this in an email, but I have hard copies if you want it.
I'll take a hard copy.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have some for the public. I only made 20 copies, but I think we're okay.
Dave, don't we have to go through roll call and everything?
Sorry?
Do we have to go through the roll call and everything?
Nope.
We did that
Oh, you did that? Oh, that's right, you have to start out. Yes, I was.
And also for the record, we had Carlos Duarte showing up at 7:14 today.
I know what's
I can hear you guys talking over there.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, because it picks you up, it's pretty good.
Nice.
So
Okay, so we have our self-assessment. The state of New Jersey came out with a law about harassment, intimidation, and bullying a few years back. One of the parts of the process is to have our violence and vandalism report done, which we did in July. Next part is to explain the self-assessment, which is, there is a checklist, I shared it with you in a report, of how we fared in different areas. And I'll just go through the areas: HIB programs, training on policy, other training, curriculum related to HIB personnel, school level incident reporting, HIB investigation procedures, and HIB reporting. So overall, this again is our self-assessment. This has not been approved by the county or anything like that. This is the first step in getting it approved. So Lakeview had 74 out of 78 of these categories with a 95%. Riverview had 71 out of 78 for a 91%, and Valley View had 68 out of 78 with an 87%. The next process will be, this will be approved by the Board of Education on the 24th if you vote that you agree with the information I'm sharing with you, and then it will be uploaded to the state website, and in a few months they'll provide us with our actual grade that has to get posted online. This presentation right here is posted on the website already. It's already there, so if there's any questions or anything like that, please let me know.
Good. Any questions from the board on this?
So you said we vote at the next meeting, August 24th.
Yeah, August 20th.
Next Monday. Questions about the presentation, about the information you have? Hey, quick question, Steve. When we talk about Lakeview doing sort of a self-assessment, who is that? Is that the principal and vice principal? How does that work?
It's the safety team, which includes the HIB personnel and the guidance counselors and all of our crisis team. people like that, the nurse.
Oh, so they all have to agree to a particular thing? Got it.
So when we see training on Board of Ed policy, that's them providing the training to staff or whatever?
Right.
Okay.
Now, there's a category in each one. You give yourself 0, 1, 2, or 3 points. If you give yourself a 1, that means a 0 means you didn't do it. A 1 meant you didn't do it great. 2 meant you did it average, just like anybody else. And a 3 is you did a great job, like beyond what you were expected to do. That's how it comes out. So, like for example, in training on BOE policy, there's 3 categories, 3 different subcategories in that category. So in Valley View, they gave themselves 2 out of 3. A lot of the time, what I find is that they're just under-reporting or being very conservative in how they report, because it is like, how do you go above and beyond explaining a policy to people? Like we do it.
Well, that's what I mean, like,
Right.
I hate to say it, but you
I know.
explain it.
Either you do it or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like if you wore it or something as a shirt, then it would be going above.
I mean, I guess when I read that, I would have looked and assumed that we missed some trainings. In other words, we're supposed to do 5 trainings, we did
Right.
4. But I guess that's not what you're saying.
3
You're saying
twos
you're
meant
actually
we-
assessing how
yeah.
well you did the training.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Going above and beyond. So it's part of what's called a statement of assurance that the principals sign, like due to me on October 1st. It's all these different things that they have to make sure that they did with their staff. One of them is training them on HIV. We also provide them with online training, and we also do training throughout the year. We did a cyberbullying training this year, and we did another HIV training with outside people, and all the inside stuff we do. So we do a fairly big amount of, a large amount of training on HIB. This is specific to our BOE policy. Then the other training deals with those things I just said, like cyberbullying, things like that.
Any other questions? Dino, Don? Listen. I hear like an echo. You hear that? Maybe it says one of these are on. All right, great. Thank you. Move right into superintendent's comments.
So the board has approved 4 of my 5 merit goals is complete. Sorry to say that one of them was not complete. It's the summer program. We weren't able to get enough registration to have it run for this year, but it might be another possibility to do for next year. I still think it's a decent program, a good idea to move on it. One thing we might want to do is have less, because if you have 10 offerings and you have a few kids in each of them, you don't have enough to run any one of them. So it might be better, instead of having 10, maybe we have 5 offerings to start, and maybe we get 1, 2, or 3 of the 5 off the ground instead of having none run. I think that might be a possibility. So that was one thing. Information to the parents. The Riverview and Lakeview teacher assignments are live on Genesis already. They've been up. Valley View's coming out this week. The busing is coming out this week. We're just doing some final adjustments to it. It will be on Genesis. I looked at it today. I checked your son, just checked a couple people's names. Yours, I checked mine. I checked Dino's. I don't think I checked yours, just to make sure that I saw it in the spot and that it made sense to me. So tomorrow we're going to do a final check to make sure everything's loaded correctly, because what we did was we merged 2 databases. We took our Genesis database, which has 1,660 kids all, and we're very sure of that data because we work hard on maintaining that. But we had to merge it with the TransFinder, which is done by the transportation department. So when we merged it, we found about 350 errors. Could be just like Napoloni spelled with an E at the end instead of an I in a 1, and we had those things will kick out and then it has to be changed. So the good thing is, I remember talking to you guys, especially in tech last year, was over the next, it's already been a year, over the next year or maybe a year after, we are really working hard to have everything originate in Genesis and push out from Genesis instead of maintaining all these different parallel databases, because that's where we're having all our issues and problems. So this is just another example of our system now that will be, that the updates will be pushed out, because what we find is like a kid withdraws and goes to a Catholic school, or withdraws and the parents move, and then we realize nobody told the bus department, right? I mean, it can't just be somebody telling you. So when the kid gets pulled out of Genesis as inactive, because they definitely do that, it will, at night, it'll update, and the kid will be pulled out of our system. So we have a lot of these different databases. We have our IEP one, we have our database for all the different programs we use, like Study Island and Renaissance and all these different programs, right? Even NJ Smart, all the different stuff we do. It's all going to originate in Genesis eventually, and we're probably 60% there, which is good. We're moving on it. So that'll help solve these problems and be able to do it quicker. The new schedule has changed slightly. There's a new schedule. It's a little bit tweaked again from Dr. Cullis that will go out with an email from me tomorrow and a phone call explaining that when your child's bus pickup is that's the bus pickup. You can't make a new bus stop. Because what we're finding out is people are just having their kids go to any spot. And it has to be the spot that we tell you, because, in other words, we don't mind as much of you moving your bus stop from one bus stop to another. What we mind is making a new one. That's what we're trying to avoid, if everybody understands what I mean.
Stopping at everybody's
I'm
house.
amazed,
Stopping at
Stopping
everybody's
at
house.
everybody's
yeah, I'm amazed that happens at all,
Yeah.
so.
It happens.
And our
Yeah.
never stop.
They're nice, very nice.
We do have very nice
Yeah,
buses.
we do. We have the nicest people. And that's what's causing this
But that's gonna stop.
big mess that we have.
Well,
We
not
have
being
to
nice.
get it under control.
They can still be nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Projects are coming along with the technology. I'm doing my walkthroughs this week with Tech and B&G. So I'll be walking through all the buildings, and then I'll do another walkthrough next week to make sure things are progressing. If you notice at Lakeview, if you've driven by, there's a lot of work being done. The drainage project has been done. The other work on the blacktop in front of the playground is started. We also have, if you noticed, I don't know if you guys went to football today, but the wall looks great on Riverview.
Yeah,
Did you guys see that? It was a big difference.
I didn't even know.
Brand new,
You got the new steps there.
brand new
the whole,
steps.
yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's totally different. There's a small retaining wall in the back. I'm not sure if you guys saw it when you were back there, but there was like an erosion problem.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And kids were starting to climb into the hole between the blacktop and the dirt. It's not that it's a real deep hole, but big enough that somebody could kind of hide in there, which is not a good thing. So we put a retaining wall in there, and we're getting some good progress on that. The buildings look good right now. We're a little short with some staff, with some retirements and staff, so we have moved a couple custodians around to help with that. And we had one custodian who basically missed the whole month of July with an illness, and even part of August. So some of the things took a little bit of a hit. That's the same custodian who was building those new cabinets for the lockers in Riverview, where we said we're going to do 10. We're only doing 5. He was out 5 weeks with a serious illness, so it just took a hit. And we'll get them done. It's just that this summer we're only going to get to 5 of them, not 10 like we hoped. But I think this list of things has to be a little bit fluid. Can't just be exact because everything doesn't go as planned. I think that's it for me.
Oh, good?
Yep.
All right, Sandy, Assistant Superintendent's comments.
Just to continue with the new schedule, so our start times have changed, and one of the pieces was to try to make the busing system much smoother and put 35 minutes between each of the schools. We didn't have the same amount of time between each of the start and ending dismissal schedules, so we did have to change some of the scheduling. And our start times for Valley View, 7:30. Dismissal is at 2:23. Lakeview is 8:05 to 2:58, and Riverview is 8:40 to 3:33. And then there is, there's a window of pickup and drop-off times that will be in the email that Mr. Forte will send out of when students can be arriving. It's about a 20 to 25-minute window in the beginning and 15-minute window at the end of the day for that. With the new schedule, some of the things that it does include, we have increased and really made our time more efficient of how we use the minutes that we have in our content areas. We still are teaching the same social studies, science, language arts, which includes reading, writing, and word work periods. Word work is spelling, grammar, phonics, and vocabulary. All of that goes into the word work, and then math. So those same subjects are being covered, but in the elementary schools, it's actually in a very set period order so that students are not overlapping and losing minutes, shortened periods and so forth, where they're 43-minute periods. In addition to that schedule, we were able to claim some time for some of the opportunities that we value in Denville with the whole child, the related arts, adding an enrichment period once a week where students get some exploration time for individual topics, as well as the flex time for things that don't fit into the content areas, but we value as a part of learning, exciting things that happen, but we don't have a place to put them in the day. So instead of maybe subtracting some of our instructional time, we have designated time for those activities. We've also built in opportunities for teachers to make sure that their schedules are aligned, that they can be collaborative and work on student assessments and student work together. So there's time for them to work and not be independent, but work collaboratively in that endeavor. Another area that is new, we do have a new science program, pre-K to 5, and it's called Knowing Science. I'm very excited about this. We'll have our first professional development on September 2nd, our second day with the team on October 12th, and then they'll be coming every couple of months. It's unlimited professional development. It's actually not one of the big publishing companies. After a year of researching, we decided to go with a company that was sponsored through the National Science Teachers Association and funded by a pharmaceutical company. They've been in business for 4 years and have some very large contracts like the state of Texas and so forth. So we are confident they will be in business, but we are excited. It's the one company that was 100% aligned to the new national next generation of science standards, that every topic was exactly the right grade level and the depth of which it needed to be. But it also included some foundational work, because you can't jump into the topic, so there's a lot of pieces in the younger grades to get them used to using materials that really aren't included in the standards, but you can't jump into the content without having the foundational pieces. So it is an inquiry-based, hands-on program with supplemental literature that goes along with it. I think that the students and the teachers will be really excited. We had a large team of teachers that decided on the new program, and the board adopted last month. This concludes the assistant superintendent's report.
I'm glad you included last formal. Thanks, Andy. I think the mayor's on vacation, right?
She is.
Yes, she is.
So Kathy,
She's in Spain.
I'm not going to embarrass you by not asking you or to asking you to do some BA comments, unless you have some.
No, just what we discussed earlier about the personnel changes. Okay, and I think you're going to announce
cover
that
that.
when you start that, so that's it. I conclude.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Sandy, you've started something.
That's my type of report.
All right, great. So it is now 7:50, and we will open for the public portion on agenda items only. Please step up. There's a microphone, I believe, there. Name and address for the record. And the agenda items would be great.
Hello?
Hold it down for a second.
Oh, there it goes.
Dave Lure, 9 Wildwood Terrace. I was looking at the personnel, section 1C. It says for Nick Andriazza, former principal, for the amount paid for the unused vacation, new amount instead of an old amount. That's the new negotiated salary. Didn't he leave before that took effect?
There,
You're on.
the administrators had a 1-year expiration of their contract, so this is the changes that happened for the year prior.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't all rush up at once. It's okay. Anyone? All right, 7:52, we'll close the public portion, first public portion. Nice meeting. Old business, no action to be taken. Carlos, do you mind taking us through this part?
Sure, at the next meeting, under old business, we're going to move items A, B, and C, Treasurer of School Monies Report, Board Secretary, Report for Student Enrollment, Medical Office, and HIB. as well as minutes from previous meetings.
Thank you, sir.
As you noticed, there will be no reports in letter B. We keep it on there for, to make sure we don't forget to keep it on there, especially with the changes in the office.
Got it. Check. Dino, personnel.
Yes.
If you don't mind, please.
If there are no objections, I'm going to move the following resolutions. Items 1 through 5, but pulling out item 2Q, and also adding from the motion number 2, 2 items for part-time instructional aides, 2A and B. And that's from page 11.
Say the last part you said?
1 through
Yeah.
5.
1 through 5, we're pulling 2Q.
2Q is pulled.
Right, and then from the motions, motion number 2,
Two.
A and B, there are 2 part-time instructional aides. We're taking that and adding that in. That's for the 2
That's the 2 last
Dates.
candidate profiles that you received.
we received today. We're taking them from no action to action, right?
Do they then become ours? I don't know what the.
Yeah, they will become,
Is it part of 2? 2S and.
S and T.
S and T.
It will now be 2S and T. 2S and 2.
And
It's
their
from page
names.
11.
Yeah, I'll say it. And they are Caitlin Decline and Darlene McKenna.
Everyone follow that?
Caitlin,
Caitlin Decline, D-E-K-L-I-E-N-E, and Darlene McKenna.
I'll second that.
Sorry.
Right, before that, can we put that, the numbers down? Do you have the numbers from the salary?
Before we do that, can we announce their salaries?
Yeah, if you don't
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Okay, Darlene McKenna is at step 3. She's part-time, it's $12,799.5.
That's .5.
Sorry, thanks. And then there's Caitlin Decline, and she's step 5.5 as well.
Correct.
$10,886 is that salary. She's also part-time.
10,800.
10,886.
886.
She's step 5 and she's paying less for .5. Are they both .5?
They're both .5.
I'm sorry, you know what? Darlene McKenna, did I say step 3? Step 13. Sorry.
Thank you. That makes more sense.
Yep.
13 steps, huh? For more.
Can't read my own handwriting, sorry.
All right, so Dino, that's the change to your motion. Are you good with that?
I am fine with that.
And Mariana, since you seconded, are you good with that as
I
well?
will second it now. That's the motion.
Okay, there you go.
Excellent.
Check and check. Questions? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm just realizing that Darlene McKenna is on
That's
motion
just a
3.
substitute too.
Do we want to keep her there?
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
substitute teacher as well.
Got it. All right. Any questions? No? You good? A roll call, please.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I have questions.
Oh,
I'm
good.
sorry. I was
Sure.
still.
Writing what we just wrote.
Go ahead.
On 1A, at the last meeting, we approved Jennifer's vacation days. Did she end up taking more? I mean, coming into work, so not needing to take more?
No, I asked her to forego a vacation that she had and told her that I would let her cash them out so she could help with keeping the
Transition?
office going as much as possible. So that's why that's there.
Okay,
She had
I
a
know,
plan, she was going to use 5 days and I begged her not to use the 5 days. We would pay her for
For
it.
less act of
of kindness towards the
kindness
district?
towards the district.
Okay, thank you. And 2F, and I'm sorry for not sending this earlier, and you may not know. No, it doesn't look like it's 2F on here. Why do I have 2F written down? On one of these items, we're approving Ann Stark for,
As the substitute caller?
She's H.
oh, H now.
It's H.
Okay. 2H, is that the same as we paid?
That's the same.
Maybe we increased it like 3, 4.
I thought we increased it like last year or the year before, so I was just
Okay.
curious.
Maybe it was this
One thing we did differently is it was paid as like a contracted employee, but now it goes through payroll. It's the way it's supposed to be.
Right, well, I remember we fixed that.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And the last one, and this is just so I understand, okay, it was 2K when I looked at it this afternoon, which means it's probably 2 ahead on that also?
Colleen Odell?
No, I think it's Jennifer
4-day?
Yeah, how is it 1.5 periods?
Because math is every other day is a double
Oh,
period.
it's a double period. Okay, I'm like, how do you teach a classroom full of
Right.
kids for only a half a period?
I'm leaving.
Gotta go. Okay, thank you. I feel better now.
And she's high school certified teaching
Yes.
for geometry, right?
She's teaching, so we had, this year, this is a pretty good thing. We had no kids eligible for it, and we had a few kids who took it on themselves to take Algebra 1 in the summer. And we have, what, 5 or 4? 4. 4. So we had 0, now we have 4. It was pretty good to keep it going. Next year, we'll have about 20 kids because the math track will catch up.
25, if we continue and do well in 7th grade, 25.
25 students next year, so that's great.
Great.
Nice. Awesome. Any of the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, Steve, can you just clarify number 5, because I stuck my head on for the public this year?
Sure. So
Yeah, thanks.
it's complex, but I'll try to explain it as much as
Should have
possible.
more.
When the contract expires, whatever the salary was and contributions to the healthcare stays the same throughout that year. When the contract is settled, the person gets retro salary. Goes back. If you're entitled to $1,000, you get $1,000. Because you get that $1,000 moves you from 49,000 to say 50,000, and you move into a different category for Chapter 78 contributions for your benefits, you owe the back amount to the district for your Chapter 8 contributions, which is for the medical insurance. In 2 cases in the district, the increment in their salary was lower than the amount they owed us for their Chapter 78, meaning they were going to get nothing, and they would also owe us about $150. We asked the attorney and the auditor if we could pass a resolution to not ask for the overage, meaning we're going to forgive the $150 a person. They still have to pay the $1,000, they just don't have to pay the $150 over what it was. It affected 2 people in the district. We've already called them and explained it to them, and, obviously people aren't happy with this, but I felt like it's the least we could do to try to make it a little bit more
So
palatable.
we don't need in this motion due to health care contributions? I mean, I had no idea what it was about.
This is from the auditor. So the auditor told us to just do this.
Okay. It's just, I actually thought it went with motion 4, which you clarified during committee that it didn't have anything to, I thought the retroactive payment was for the extra 3 days. So it's totally,
Right.
I mean, it's so vague that it could mean anything.
And just to clarify, because I asked this question too, we have already paid the retroactive. It's not like we're saying we're going to pay it. I just want to make sure that that's clear to everybody, especially the
Every
public,
other
that it's been
teacher got
paid.
their retroactive pay. These 2 people, can you imagine, got an increase that was
Get a
less
raise.
than what they have to pay in health insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
This is for auditing purposes. That's why the resolution needs to be there.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Capello?
Yes on everything except item 2M as in Mary, I'll abstain.
Staying on 2N.
Yep.
Mrs. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Cass?
Yes.
Mr. Duarte?
Yes.
Mrs. DeLuna?
Yes.
Mr. Napoloni?
Yes. All right, Donald, if you will, your section, please.
After many, many years, it is with a great deal of pleasure, I move to approve the following resolution regarding the sale of the 501 Opanaki Road property. I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's pretty lengthy, but I do point out 2 important things on here. Item B in section 1, that there's going to be an auction and property review. There'll be an open public sale at auction September 11th at 10 a.m. at the Town Hall Conference Room, first floor, St. Mary's Place. And prior to that, if people want to check out the property on September 8th, 2015, 10 a.m., there'll be a pre-auction on-site meeting at the property for prospective bidders to check the premises out.
Awesome. I know, I can feel the glow coming from you. on
Well,
that
it's
portion.
probably nice to see something to come to resolution and closure.
Do we have a second
So
on
can I
this part?
second it
Yes, sir. Don, or Carlos wants the honor of seconding?
before you continue talking about it?
Just
Yeah.
making a observation more than a comment. But sure, thank you for seconding. Any questions about this motion?
Just want to say thank you, Steve, for finally bringing this to closure.
Agreed.
Like you
It's
said.
not for action?
Agreed.
This is for action.
It is for action, I just forgot the roll call.
Oh, okay.
listing.
You're gonna have to handwrite
Which
this.
now I have.
I can do
We
that.
wanted to put it for action so we could get the ad in the paper.
Awesome. Any questions about this?
No, because
Thank
you
you for
know
the
how
comment
this whole
about
thing was supposed to
Steve
be.
pushing it through. He did a great job, I think.
Thank you.
Finally.
Right, on or about September 3rd, right? I think is what we originally said way back when we decided
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do
So we're
it.
off by 8 days.
That's okay. It's getting done. It's getting
Any
done.
other questions down here? All right, roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindsay,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
Mr. Duarte,
Yes.
Mrs. DeLuna,
Yes.
Mr. Napoloni.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, if you don't mind, please.
Yes, so from a committee report perspective, we had a meeting this evening at 6:15. On that agenda, we discussed several items for instruction and program. We discussed the new school times, minimum days and delayed opening. I think Dr. Cullis described some of those times already. That'll be published this Friday, is that correct, Steve? The times?
We're hoping to get it out tomorrow.
Okay, that's right. And as he said before, he's going to also leave a voicemail via the public notice system and get that out. So we also, and Dr. Cullis sent over some data from Morris Hill Regional District from some of the Denville students that are currently 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we sat down and went through it during the committee meeting. I strongly suggest if you guys have questions on it to give Dr. Cullis a call. It's really great data, and I thank her for not only pulling it, but then graphically representing it in a lot of different ways. It shows the different classes that the students are in, coming from our district into 9, 10, 11 from ELA and math, multiple different courses they offer, A's, B's, and C's, so really detailed information. And I think, to me, I look at this like a stepping stone for opportunities, not only, first of all, to improve now, but then also for future, comparing it to as we get more data next year and so on. So a lot of data there, and like I said, I encourage you that there was some things in there that was like alphabet soup to me, so I encourage you guys, if you have questions, to call her. She'd be happy to go through it with you. We did have one student, and it's on the agenda tonight to be voted on next week for online French 2. We discussed that briefly. And then we actually ran out of time to discuss in too much detail policy 5200, which is attendance, so we decided to bring it in and discuss it in public session tonight when it gets to that point. So that was the committee report. And then if there are no objections, I'd like to move item 1 under instruction and program.
I'll second.
Thanks, Don.
So this talks about teachers' college reading units for several staff members on September 18th at Columbia University in New York, and then another one September 29th at Columbia for writing unit. And this noted is coming out of Title II funds, correct?
Awesome. Questions about this part? I think we've seen some of the teachers' college stuff before. I know we had a lot of teachers go this year, right? They got accepted into it?
Correct, this summer we quite a
Great. Questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindsay,
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
Mr. Duarte,
Yes.
Mrs. DeLuna,
Yes.
Mr. Napoloni.
Yes. All right, so, Dino, no action to be taken, but if you don't mind taking us at our next meeting, what we'll be going through.
Sure. We are going to be discussing the job description for substitute teachers, and that is it, because we moved motion 2 to an action item.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And Mike, if you don't mind, our next meeting for IP?
Yep. At our next meeting, we'll be moving items 1 through 7. They include workshops and expenses for some staff members, particularly Mr. Anitaska. And then the discarding of the attached used books list. I always get a kick out of reading through the 1987 books we still had in our inventory.
There was a history one in there, too.
There was a history book from 1990 yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
It was like a reader's workshop from 1987. I figured that was probably outdated at this point. But also some of the HIB reports, that French 2 student we had talked about, that one student at a cost of $636 for that online course, as well as some other items. Are there any questions?
Everything good? Barb, policy for our next meeting, if you don't mind? You good?
Well, are we voting on the org chart tonight?
No.
It'll be next week.
Next week.
All right, a week from tonight.
1 week.
We'll be voting on the org chart. Years. And the following as listed on your agenda are available for first reading. I noticed on the website there was no reg for 5200. I don't know. That was the only thing. Everything else is online for everybody.
Can you attend this one? Any questions about some of the
Yeah, I don't know if there's a reg.
Yeah, I had sent an email, and I want to thank Steve for sending it out to the attorney on the substance abuse policies, where I did not see a reference to federal regulations, and the lawyer didn't think it was needed because if somebody came to work stoned or drunk, it would be an issue. But I still, even with that explanation, I still have a concern that this is a very liberal state, and I'm concerned at some point they may legalize marijuana. And I just think it tightens up the policy if we reference federal as well as state and any other regulations. I just think the more comprehensive the policy is, it gives it eliminates some of the wiggle room of somebody getting out of something.
The only thing
Just so you know, in Colorado, if it's in your company policy that you can't, have any type of substance like that, that supersedes the fact that it's allowed by law. So you can still fire somebody.
The other component to that is that, and I think, and I don't disagree with, I think there's a real weird sort of scenario right now where federal law obviously is not the same as some of these state laws, and how that relates to employees who may travel to Denver for a weekend and come back, and maybe something's in their system. But I think the bottom line part of it is that if I read this correctly, that I think what you said earlier, if they come into work and they're suspected to have been under the influence of something, regardless of whether or not it's legal or illegal, that they still can, and if they are tested by the doctor and it's found to be positive, whether it's legal or illegal, it still falls into the category of being against the policy, right? So the same thing as for alcohol. Alcohol being legal.
It could be
if they
even a
were
prescription drug.
If they, yeah.
But we are referring state.
We're what, sorry?
We're referencing using the word state.
No, I realize that, but what I'm saying is that alcohol, for example, is legal, right? And
Yes.
if a teacher were to come and they were found to be under the influence of alcohol, they still follow under the same policy.
Yeah, but I don't see the harm in adding the word federal along with state.
I think the only problem with that, and I'm not an attorney, I would defer to what he had said, but I think it only complicates how or what we're supposed to be following. Are you supposed to be following state law? Are we supposed to be following federal law as it relates to other areas? And that's why I would defer. If he says not to put it in there, I would defer to that. If he says to put it in there, I'm not an attorney. That's just my.
Well, I don't think it's a case which law we're following. I just think it expands the substance abuse. I have it right in front of me there, but I'm always concerned about a loophole with somebody. You can see that throughout the country. I mean, it may change with the next administration, but there's just no enforcement of the federal marijuana laws in Colorado and Washington too, right? That's the other
Well,
state. So,
the enforcement comes in the fact that the dispensaries cannot deposit the cash from the sales that they make,
yeah.
right?
But
But
the
the
sale is
sales
illegal from a federal standpoint,
Absolutely.
and they decided not to enforce it. So,
That part is true. And again, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Don. I just don't know what the right answer is. Is it, what our attorney says ultimately is, I think, how I should follow it. I'm one of 7, but Steve, do you want to sort of update the rest?
Yeah, I mean, our policy attorney who handles this for us said that we shouldn't add it in, that it was okay, it was fine, the way it is. But, I mean, it's up to you. I just like to follow what they say. That's why we pay them to manage our policies. But if the board as a whole feels that you want to put that in there, then we'll put it in.
And you're talking about 32-118 and 42-18, right?
Yeah.
Did anyone else have any concern or question mark about that component of those two policies at all?
Can Can we use school boards and bounce off another opinion? Don't they provide policy?
We don't use them as our policy people. I could have our attorney look at it, but, obviously it's gonna have a.
But, so you have to, for school boards, I know they offer that, but we'd have to pay for that service? We don't pay for that service
We
through them? I
pay
know
for
we
it from
pay
a different company,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't pay for that service from them.
But
Because
is it part-
they
is
always
it part
ask
of
us
our
if we want to
dues?
do
We
it.
could
Yeah.
look at their sample policy, though, for free.
At school boards?
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's not legal in the state of New Jersey. You revisit it at the time that it
I'm just saying,
does
if we wanna
become
do
legal, right?
something
I'm sure
for
Strauss
free-
Esme will update it there.
They have a corresponding one. It doesn't have the same number. You'd have to figure out what it is for substance abuse. But, I mean, their sample policies are included with our dues. So if we wanted to look for free, and that would be their legal opinion, right?
And that's fair. I mean, the only thing I would say is that we're already paying him for an attorney who's already giving us an opinion for Denver.
Well, so I mean, I don't want to pay for anybody else's opinion, but
Yeah.
if you want to go after something that's free from school boards, that's fine.
But even, well, yeah, you're right. Does anyone else feel strongly that it should be added, or we should be investigated, or anything like that? Or can we move on the way it is written?
Yeah, I think we should just look at the sample policy on school boards just to see what it says, just to get an idea.
All right, do you want
Yeah, that they don't
It's a
do.
second opinion, kind of. It's a
Yeah.
free second opinion, more or less. I mean, it's not a direct second opinion, but it's
I mean, I printed
something.
out their policy comparison thing the other day when we were voting on and it says it's included with our dues, the sample policy. I mean, I've called and asked them and even spoken to their lawyers before about policies, and they've always provided what their lawyers came up with.
Do you want to do some investigative work for us?
Sure.
Anything about 5200? That's the attendance.
That's the one that you didn't
That
have
we
time
didn't-
for in committee?
Yep.
Right. What we did talk about, though, was there seems to be, in the regulation part, a discrepancy. It seems to say that both excused and unexcused absences count toward truancy. At least that's what it seems
To
to
the 10
suggest.
days, or whatever it was?
There's a comma, but it's
Yeah.
hard to read, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's just fuzzy. But when you read it, if you read it a certain way, and I read it to Dr. Cullis, it sounds more like you're saying both.
Right, in both
Both
the
count.
policy and the regulation, it basically says that it's a comma, and, I mean, the old wording was more clear, I think, and they changed it, and now it's unclear to me. So, I don't know what it means, and once we figure out what it means, then we should just clear up the wording.
And that's not our choice to decide what counts towards truancy exactly. That's a state
Right.
followed policy.
Yep.
Well, excused absences don't
Should
count. If you're sick, it doesn't count towards students.
I know there's a couple of things like take your children to work day was in there. And
Right, and in the old policy, it was clearly delineated, and now it's, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's, bulleted differently.
they took it out of the paragraph and they put it in.
Right, and that's why, and I sent the questions, and I'm trying to remember, but in the regulation, it said something about, it makes it sound like,
Like excused absences may count towards the truancy.
right, and then I said, well, what, I would like to understand, they delineate all these things that are unexcused absences. What is an excused absence that counts towards truancy?
Oh.
I wanted like an example, because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
If
'cause
you're,
It reads, "A record shall be maintained of each excused absence and each unexcused absence that counts towards truancy as defined." So it's just not clear.
is it a list, or is it
Right.
two separate thoughts?
Two separate thoughts. It will keep record of excused absences as well as unexcused.
Well, maybe we could
Then
just
maybe
add
that
a
sentence should
period.
end, Right.
And then
Instead of
say,
the
and we'll
different
also
lists.
keep a list of, and then you won't have confusion.
I'm okay with changing it like that too. I didn't read it that closely. I went through the quick, I'm sitting in a chair type reading, so I didn't miss, I missed the specifics, how specific
But it's
it
in
was,
both
but-
of them, that if we could split it into two sentences, on my quick read through, I'm like, well, what does that mean?
We can do, I'm okay with that. Is everyone else okay with that? Changing it into two different sentences, stopping it after the.
Yeah, but that's the intent.
Excused absences, and then the next sentence would start with the unexcused absences counting towards truancy.
Start over again, so I
All right, so
can follow you.
in 5200,
Yeah, go ahead.
so.
Page
there's-
2,
Comma becomes a period.
What
it's on the regulation, right?
what paragraph? It's in both, apparently. What paragraph was it, Dino?
Paragraph 2, 1 and 2, item 2. A record shall be maintained
Okay.
of each excused absence, and then we're saying period. and that's.
What page are you on?
I'm looking at I'm looking at a section of it that Mariana pasted in. It's under under 1, recording attendance.
Under 1, and this is is this in regulation
In
or
the regulation.
policy? Okay. Under 1, recording attendance.
There it is.
Yes.
By teacher and authorized. No, that's
Don't
not
go
it.
by me.
Do you know what part it was,
Wrong on-
Mariana?
I sent the email, I can pull up the
Yeah,
email. I don't have a hard copy of it. If you give it to me, I can circle both sections and the two of them.
You mean the hard copy?
Yeah, if you send it down, and then we'll get it fixed. It's just, that clears it all up.
Is it the policy and the regulation, or just the?
They both have a similar sentence in them.
It's I1 and 2.
So, that change will be made.
In regulation, it's I1 and 2.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in regards to 5200 that someone or anyone had a concern about? Question mark about?
So, a record to maintain of each excused absence,
And
period.
everyone's okay with the change in regards to the period and separating the sentences?
A record
That is
shall
accurate what we can record.
be
Good.
maintained.
Any other questions on 8630, on the responsibility or the procedures, policy and regulations? Essentially telling the bus
Okay,
driver
right,
to
so that's
follow
that
the
one.
procedures.
Yeah.
No? Anything on the bus driver one?
We discussed it in committee, so I won't have a report later. And I actually forget, Steve, how did we leave it? We discussed on page 2 of the policy, under emergency bus evacuation drills, some of the items listed under 5, we're not sure we do right now. And I don't know if we're going to investigate whether we want to keep them in and make sure we talk about them or pull them out, to be
I would
honest.
say we leave them in and we just do what it says to do.
Okay, so we're going to leave them in, and we're going to ask the bus drivers to add that to what they drill the students on.
Okay. That
So
was in the
no changes.
That was in the emergency section?
It was in the regulation, so we're
Regulation,
not
not
changing
policy.
anything.
Yeah, I meant in B, in section B.
Yes, B,
In the
5,
second
A and B, but nothing's changing.
page. Okey-dokey. Questions about that area? Nope. All right, so that's good. That's our next meeting, right? Operations, Don.
Okay, unfortunately, I was not able to make the committee meeting tonight. I don't know if Mariana wants to add anything in. But I do call your attention to the pre-meeting packet that we got a very thorough analytical report on the Valley View Field and some pricing options there of what's needed. And I know we did a survey a while back, but this was definitely a big improvement over, the eyeball job we got done a couple of years back. So I know it's on our at the end of the agenda, discuss it every meeting. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, it'd be a good idea. Obviously, a big price differential between a turf field versus a refurbishing of the grass field, but it's very well done. I guess the only negative is the footprint of the property there, is that you wouldn't have the soccer field. The soccer field's would still overlap portions of the infield of the baseball field, which is not an ideal situation, but it is what it is.
And part of that field was in the 125-year floodplain?
Yes.
Is that what I saw?
The section behind the baseball batting cage is in the floodplain,
The part closest to River Road?
which and that means that you couldn't put turf in that section.
How much space is it?
It's not a lot. That's why they want $5,500 for the survey, though. They would actually have to come out and survey it to know exactly what section it's not on there.
So is this then the time to talk about that report
The report,
that he's referencing?
sure, if you guys want to talk about it.
Ken?
Well, I don't know, I mean, and I don't have it in front of me, and I wasn't really thinking about talking about it tonight. But it sort of came up in committee because the next survey for the floodplain came up in committee.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, how the board feels about spending another $5,500 to go after, the only reason you would need that survey of the floodplain was if we want to go after turf fields, which are, and don't quote me on this, $1.4 million?
Around that.
1.3.
$1.3 million? Thank you, Mr. Cass.
I'm not sure, but I would think that even for a grass field, you probably want the survey, but that would be when we're ready to actually do it.
Oh, okay, that's the
It's
opposite of what
possible.
you told me in the
No,
committee.
what I'm saying is, if we're moving on the grass field, I'm not 100% sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if you said part of that $420,000 to fix the field would be including up-to-date survey. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
But that's already included in there.
Yeah,
But meaning they would subtract it from the 4 and
Yeah.
change or whatever, because we already did the survey, I guess you're saying. Which I think almost brings up a different point, that even if we grassed it, it would still be 400.
But yeah, I don't know how we decide what we want to do as a next step. And that's, is it now, is it at the good of the cause? I mean,
I think the next step, everybody needs to take a chance to, take the time to review it. I don't know who's really, studied it in any great detail, and take a look at the components of the 2 recommendations. I mean, I perused it, I didn't, spend like a half an hour really studying it. But I know one of the major issues is drainage. So even if you did a grass field, you have to make sure that there's adequate drainage, and also the retaining wall that's out there now is in very poor shape and contributes to the soil erosion. So we have to look at all those things. Obviously, there's a big cost differential, and pluses and minuses with either solution. So I think we need to, as a board, take a look at it and see, comments on preferences and all of that, and then we'll, go over it again at the next operations committee too, and
Did we
perhaps come up with a committee recommendation on what we want to do to
And
the
it-
board.
well, that sort of brings up some other questions too. Okay.
But maybe, Don, maybe that's where some of it starts. Maybe we need some vetting from the ops group, and come back up with some sort of recommendation that's maybe a little, I don't want to say formal exactly, but maybe gives us sort of the pros and cons, and maybe what the recommendation from the committee is, and then sort of laid out on us, and then we can kind of go from there. I know we got some of the raw data or raw information,
Yeah.
sort of, but if you guys can do some more digging, that would certainly be helpful from my perspective.
I thought it was a really great report. It really
It was thorough, that's
covered
for
a lot
sure.
of, very thorough, cover a lot of the areas that I don't think were even on the radar screen before, consider when we talk about redoing.
The part that I didn't understand is that area that you're talking about, as I'm thinking about it right now, has a retaining wall on the other side of where that backstop is. So even if we grassed it, I'm wondering what they would say about, because we're going to have to replace that retaining wall too, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what they'd have to say, even if we grassed it, if we were able to make changes to that, since it's in the flood zone.
He did say it would take some work, but you could do the grass without a problem. Like, not without a problem, with the DEP. In other words, there's nothing we can do there without the DEP. So when you get in the DEP involved, it's gonna slow things down, it's more involved. But he did say that they're pretty sure, this is what I'm telling you word for word, they're pretty sure it won't require the major DEP approval for the floodplain idea.
Even
If
changing
you
the
do,
wall
if you
or
do
something
dirt,
like that.
if you do turf, yeah.
Turf or?
I'm sorry, if you
something
do
like
sod,
grass?
if you do grass. And, yeah, one of the problems is that all that swampy area across the street is all protected area. So you have to think about all the drainage. It's a pretty involved process. It's not just like throwing some topsoil down and seed. And he also recommended moving the baseball field basically across from where it is, because it made sense to me that the clay doesn't stop the erosion as much as grass does. So the more grass you have on the east side of that field,
Towards the fire
the
department,
better it would be, yeah.
or firehouse.
Okay, so we did start sort of talking about this in committee, and I'm fine with it going back to committee and the committee making a recommendation to the board if that's the next step, which sort of, when we're done with that discussion, I have a next step about our next committee meeting. So does anybody else have a comment?
No, I don't, does anyone have a problem with it going to committee and coming out with some info? Or some recommendations?
You don't have a problem with that, you want that. Okay, so our next committee meeting, the Buildings and Grounds, is slated for September 14th. And one of the major topics already on the agenda for that is to do next steps with the ESIP. The committee met, or Mr. Forte met with the committee of people working on ESIP, which is the people we already approved, the person from ESIP, our
So we
bond
have
counsel,
our bond counsel, our attorney for this project, we have our financial person and our engineer.
So, and the next step would be So Honeywell came in and did a presentation to them. He feels the next step is to have Honeywell come in and do a presentation to the committee, also then for the committee to make a recommendation to the board to move on that. So I guess at the same meeting could be this field talk. I was going to request if there was anybody available to sub in for me on the 14th, only partly because I can't make it, and the other part because, for full disclosure, my husband works for Honeywell, which means I couldn't make a recommendation to the board, and you might as well have 3 board members listening to the proposal to be able to make a recommendation to the board, rather than me saying, I can't abstain, I have to abstain.
What time is that ops meeting?
So we were going to bring this up. Do you guys want to go to the first Tuesday of the month for both committees? The IMP committee was good with it. First Tuesday of the month at 6:15, and the ops would be 5:30. Would you like to do that? Because then we would move that to
September 8th?
the 8th.
Which is Labor Day?
The
day after.
Oh, it's Tuesday, okay. Well, I'm not going to be a part of it either way, but
Well, the Honeywell thing.
Everybody good with that?
That is the
Yeah, also,
second
was the
Tuesday.
14th a Jewish
It
holiday?
is, it's Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, there's-
But Mariana, can you go to the, at least one part of it and just maybe abstain from the other part of it?
depends on when you schedule it.
No, for the 8th.
If it's on the 8th, yes, I can.
All right, so if we move it to the 8th, then you're,
And if nobody can come, I'm happy to go and listen. I want to understand. And for full disclosure, this is not the part of Honeywell my husband works for at all, but it's still Honeywell.
Look, we're counting on about 5 different entities to be together at one time, so the chances that they're going to be able to do the 8th might not be so good. If they can do the 14th, and I can get 3 board members there, would you be amenable to that? Because they've already agreed to the 14th.
we can't change anything.
If they can't do the 8th, I want to do the 14th, and then I'll get any 3 of you that can be there.
Well,
Hopefully some ops
besides
people.
Mariana, who else on the ops committee can't make the 14th?
I'm pretty sure I can make it.
It's Don and Barb. I just, from the, full disclosure, I just feel
That's
like,
the only day that they can make it?
I'm not positive.
he's not sure, he
I've
hasn't
set it
asked.
for the 14th.
But that he
there's-
asked for already.
There's about 5 or 6 different entities we're talking about, and it's the day after Labor Day.
What
so-
time's it at
The
on the
thing is,
14th?
the 14th, you're against.
I don't know. He
Rosh
keeps
Hashanah.
moving our
You may-
committee
you may
meetings. I have no
problems there
idea.
as well,
Okay.
so.
Is it
But-
6:15?
Schools open back up?
It was on the
It wasn't a
agenda
problem
that we
for
all
our-
got
for
from
the
him
group.
today.
It might be a problem for this group, but not for that group.
I could probably do the 14th if you need me. I don't know if unless someone else wants to go to it.
I can't do the 14th.
I'm in the city on the 14th.
I can do the 14th.
All right, so Mike and I will figure out, between Mike and I, one of us will go.
Yeah, that's fine.
If it's the 14th, if we can move it to the 8th, great, then Mariana, then you can go and leave on the Honeywell section.
Well, I can't do the Honeywell still, but I can do the other. I just,
On the 14th right now?
14th would be at 5:30?
Is it okay to do this for September, do the 14th for both committees? Can we do that?
Yeah,
And then
instead of
October,
going
we'll
to-
go to the first Monday. Is that okay?
First Monday or
The
first?
first Tuesday.
Second.
Starting in October, we'll go first Tuesday, right? First Tuesday of the month?
Okay,
But for
October?
September, we're going to do September 14th.
So we don't have to
How
worry
long
about
is needed to the committee meeting going to run? We're going to keep it to like
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, and this is all out of order, but it was important, I think, to get 3 board members to the
What's on the back of
Honeywell.
that phone?
It is important.
It's a paint palette. I doodle you guys.
I know we talked about this in committee, and I apologize, but is there a reason why Tuesdays are better? In general, Mondays are better for me, but
I'm not sure. Is there a reason?
No, I was used to being on curriculum, which was always the
for
first
you...
Monday of the month.
You said you wanted to move them to the first Tuesday.
I think he wanted them both on the same
I'd like to
night.
do both the same day.
I gotcha. Okay.
And
That's fine. I just...
Buildings,
these-
grounds, and finance traditionally was on Tuesday night, and curriculum was on Monday night. So that's why traditionally they were on 2 different nights.
Yeah.
Monday, for me, is better, also because you sort of, although, maybe it was me that said I couldn't do it on Monday night.
It was you that said you couldn't do Monday, so we moved it to Tuesday, but I don't mind doing both of them on Monday. Monday or
It depends on what
Tuesday's
time
fine.
you, I have that problem that I have to drive carpool every Monday night.
And we don't want them on the same night as the board meeting.
6:15 is no good?
So
Or is
if,
that
no,
good?
that's bad.
That's bad.
That's terrible. If my meeting started at 7, I could get there at 7:03, just like I do to these meetings. But I can't get there at
So
6:15.
would we want to do, I was trying to do the
You
thing
can
for
keep it on
everybody.
Tuesdays. I may have more conflicts, but that's okay. It's okay.
Why-
I'll work through it. I'll do whatever I can to change my
Why can't
schedule
we
as
do
much as
like,
possible.
one group like Monday at 5:30 and the next group on Tuesdays at 5:30?
I think we're trying to
trying to-
You're
consolidate.
trying to get it the same night.
Yeah.
He's trying to do the same night. He's trying to do it
But it sounds like Mike may have limited amount of conflicts.
Yeah, it's
So,
okay.
If you gotta leave it.
Yeah.
So starting
If we have a
October-
one-off, we can talk about trying to reschedule that one. If it doesn't work, that's okay, then somebody else can fill in for me.
So starting October, we're going to go with both committees this first Tuesday of the month. But for this month, we're going to go with September so we can do this ESIP thing. Everybody's
That's
good?
already set for 9/14. So Mike and I will figure out who can go on the 14th
Yeah.
and go from there.
Yep.
Good? Good. Good? All right, Barb, anything else done with ops?
No, sir.
Barb, finance?
We also had a subcommittee meeting just prior. We went over the things on the agenda. Just reading. Looking at the agenda too for next week, I don't know, since we have Kathy, our guest, maybe I'll put you on the hot spot for one of your favorite topics, number 6 and 7. Like, we tried to waive this and it's not waived, and just explaining the whole semi and why we need to get help. And,
I can explain it.
all right, between the two of you, yeah. I don't-
So SEMI is a Medicaid project. It's a federal project that provides very little income to us or very little revenue to us for help in special ed cases. It's a fairly large undertaking and for not a lot of money. So we had the budget for it. The state would not approve our budget without it. We're in the process of working on it now. It's a lot of work for probably somewhere in the $16,000 range. So we are doing it. We had the budget for it, and we're moving on it. Anything else? I'm not a big semi-expert, but I might be able to answer a specific question if you have it.
It actually, we've never had to do it this way before. There was something, and it's more of a special ed department.
waiver.
Yeah, it's the waiver. Normally, we waive it, and we can't do it this year for whatever, and I'm not an expert on it either, but I know,
Well, the state hired a company. The state hired a company to do this, to oversee this and to collect the funds and get involved. So there's somebody more involved in it than just the state now. So they're making everybody who's eligible do it. They weren't letting you waive it
can't
anymore.
move on with our budget next year.
Right. You always have to do it now.
Yeah, it's just, this is one of those cases maybe on Don's bucket list. If it costs us more for the gift,
Can you turn down the gift?
Yeah, no, you can't.
All right. All right, so in committee, we just went over the semi. We talked about having, because John worked really hard to do some of the buildings and grounds things with this past year's budget, we actually have a slight breakage from what we budgeted for this year, around $150,000 in buildings and grounds, 90 in technology, and 32 in textbooks, where they were able to bring in the recs and actually order the books on the 14-15 budget. So, and then one other thing we talked about was another creative, how do we look at revenue streams that don't impact the taxpayer? And there's this concept of this think work dude who lives, do you want to talk about think work a little?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
So we have an opportunity for a little bit of advertising revenue with this business, just like we did with the Yankees and the Giants. We advertise a little bit for them, we get a little bit of revenue. Our new revenue is approaching the $200,000 mark, I believe, from last year.
Yes.
Pretty close. So we're just trying to, it's not a huge number, like where we're gonna get $70,000 from this one shot, but we're gonna get probably between $3,000 and $5,000. We'll keep doing little things like this, and it adds up. And, it added up to $200,000 this year, so that's pretty good. But some of them are little, some of them are big. This is one of the little ones. And I think it has the possibility of being a lot bigger than it is. We'll start out small, and it could be a much bigger revenue stream for us down the road, if it works.
I
It's
think-
basically a second, it's another aftercare program that possibly, when we negotiate with the Y, when our contract's up, we may be able to renew with the Y, or we may go with this. We're just keeping our options open.
I mean, philosophically, I know we talked in the past about advertising on buses, and you don't want like Camel ads or whatever, you know. So he's actually looking for us to leverage like our existing networks, pushing out through Genesis or whatever, the Friday folders, information about commercial endeavors. And so philosophically, maybe we just sleep on whether this is a good road for an income stream. Like, he's obviously been thinking outside of the box, and it's refreshing, some non-tax income, you know.
Well, I think that ship's already sailed. We already have advertising on the website for philosophically, the
But-
board has accepted that.
Maybe not for payment per se.
Well, we
A lot
did it
of
with
free
the Yankees
advertising.
And the, what?
Yankees gave us $4,500.
And what was the other two?
And the Giants, that
That's
was
what I mean.
a person.
Philosophically, if the board was going to say we don't want to do advertising, I think we should have raised our hand a while ago. I'm not adverse to discussing it, I'm just saying,
Is this alternative to the YMCA for after-school care, they're up and running in other districts,
Yes, they are.
so.
He's working on a couple other places, and he's got a following in this town.
And they've been doing it for quite a while.
He's been doing some work in Denville for at least 5 years that I know of.
and just so the board understands, from the committee meeting, my understanding was it's an alternative to the Y. It will not be on our site. It'll be housed in town. Can I
Right.
disclose that?
Yeah.
Up in Rock Ridge. And so it's just, literally, it's about the advertising. It's not in our buildings or facilities. It will affect our students, because it's most likely who would want to take advantage of it.
All we would be doing at this point is putting an advertisement on our Friday folder, like
Like
we
a
have.
banner across the top.
You know, like we have one for the Y, right? We have an advertisement for the Y, we have an advertisement for the Foundation of Denville, we had one for Yankees, we had one for Power Play Gaming, we had one for the Giants. It'll just be another one of those. People will click on it, we can give them the metrics, and when people sign up, we get a percentage of whatever they spend. That was the deal I made. I mean, sometimes you get money up front, sometimes you get this. I think in the long run, if this works, it could turn into something bigger than $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. It could be a pretty big, revenue stream for us in the future. Possibly, but I think it's just a baby step right now.
Do we have a policy on that kind of stuff? I mean, and the reason why I ask is, we have to approve the throwaway books from 1987, but, you know, is there a policy on how people are applying for, hey, I want to advertise on this, or?
We do.
We do, okay.
There's a policy, and there's a law, and there's about 10 different categories of things you cannot advertise for. Political, anything political, religious, obviously anything to do with alcohol, drugs, anything like that, you can't do. So there's a list, and when I don't spend a lot of time doing this, sometimes it more falls in my lap. I don't really go out there and solicit for new ads, but sometimes like I'm working with Power Play Gaming, I worked with the Giants, things like that, but not huge, it's not a big amount of my time. I am working with the TAP though, and hopefully what'll work, if it works, like I did before when I was in Verona, I had an online magazine that did our ad sales. They took a piece of it, but it was a lot bigger project there where we were bringing in, you know, $1,000 an issue of that Friday folder. But they would take a piece of it. It was really a pretty good deal. So maybe that'll come here. It's just, we're getting there. Like we're drumming up some revenue, and I think it's great that we hit the 200,000. I mean, that's a pretty good number for outside new revenue that we brought in.
Okay, so that was the last topic of the subcommittee. A week from tonight, we'll have the motions that are listed on the agenda, the regular budget transfers, the checklists, field trips, non-public nursing textbook technology funding from the state. It's like a pass-through, comprehensive maintenance plan, and the semi, as well as some special ed placements and professional support service agreements, county services. Educational Service Commission, Morris County, so the public, the county agreements. for nursing.
Good.
That's it.
All right, good at cause. Any other committee reports that we missed? Anything like
Yes,
that?
actually. I skipped the personnel committee report we had tonight.
Yeah, please.
Not too much to talk about. We reviewed the substitute teacher job description that everybody received a copy of this week. We also reviewed the two substance abuse policies, 3218 and 4218.
Do you guys recommend them all as is?
I do.
Not the entire committee then?
No, we didn't actually get to that point, I guess. As far as I know, we didn't have any open questions, so I believe we do.
Okay. Thank you.
Got it. Correspondence, I sent through a folder around. There was some interesting stuff in there. Discussion items, 501 Opanaki, which we talked about today. Any new information on trailers or anything like that?
Had a meeting, the first meeting with Ross Haber, I call it like a pregame. He got some information from us. He's going to ask us for more things. I asked him to pretty much start more in September once the school year opens up because we're pretty busy with other things like getting the schools ready. But he's pretty confident that we would be receiving the report this fall, final report.
Got it.
Are the two trailers at Lakeview
Gone.
gone? Okay.
There's a pile of dirt there now because they have to redo the three buildings were connected for fire, so they just have to reconnect the fire. That's the only thing that's holding them up.
Fire alarm?
Fire alarm, yeah.
And all the electric and plumbing and all that other
It's all
stuff's
done.
taken care of?
Everything's done.
I haven't been back there in a while.
They're gonna seed it, they're gonna put a little topsoil down, they're gonna seed it and reclaim the space.
Got it. Fields, Valley View Fields, we talked a little bit about that. Any other comments? We kind of went through a little bit of that.
I'll put it back on the agenda. It might, Don, if it's okay with you, take a back seat until October because we have the ESIP. The ESIP thing's gonna take up a lot of our time, and the ESIP, according to our people, we're about 12 months out from putting a shovel in the ground, so we're moving along on that.
Okay. Any other?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We had a couple emails going out regarding the board self-evaluation and goal setting. So I sent you an email earlier, left you a voicemail.
I responded to you.
We have 4 people that can make it on September 2nd, and we had 4 people that can make it on September 3rd. It's not the same 4 people, but you're the missing link.
I said I sent you an email back. I said I was good
Okay,
for
I
either.
didn't see it.
That's good. I'm good for either one.
Okay. All right.
So we invite people to make it either night.
All right.
What about the
No, different
board
people.
meeting?
Different people for the Wednesday I'm hearing and
Well,
different
right,
people
but
for
if there
the...
was 4 and 4 and you're.
I could
yes
make
on
both
either,
nights.
fine.
Dino
I
was
can't get
and
some-
Shady on one. Carlos was not available for one of them.
A second.
When's our first meeting in September?
Mariana was not
14th,
available.
21st.
Oh, the 21st is our first board meeting?
And that was going to be my comment.
All right, I'll get something out on that and check with Charlotte, because she's, as I found out, she's really busy. She's,
Oh, she's,
is at it every night with some board over, all the boards with, just a variety of assistance that she renders. So I will get back to her and confirm the date, and I think that would be a special meeting just devoted to those 2 things.
I would rather not wait till, obviously, the 21st. I mean, if you ask me my preference, probably the Wednesday rather than the Thursday.
Okay.
So that's the second, right?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so.
I'm just thinking in my head,
The 3rd
sorry.
is the first day of school.
Yeah, I mean, but,
yeah, Thursday's the first day of school.
we're just around the corner from starting the school year, so we certainly want to have those goals in place.
Because this triggers down to you
before we
for
start.
yeah. I mean, I would rather go, if you want to make it for the Wednesday, that would be 5
Okay.
of us that night at least. Good?
Yeah, that would be the 4th. Or the 3rd, excuse me, 3rd.
No, wait, the second, isn't it?
Thursday or
The second is Wednesday, the third is Thursday.
Yeah, I would,
Thursday is the first day of school. You want to be home to help your wife with the kids.
So didn't you say the 3rd?
Yeah, Thursday's
It was
the
Monday,
first
Tuesday,
day of
Wednesday,
school.
were days.
The Wednesday would be
First
better
Wednesday.
for me, obviously.
yeah, I thought Wednesday too.
Thursday.
That's why I voted Wednesday.
Yeah, 9/2. 9/2 is Wednesday, right?
9/2 is Wednesday.
Yeah, 9/2.
What
So
time are
you
we
want to do
looking at?
Wednesday, 9/2?
9/2.
What time are we looking at?
I think we'd do the regular,
Early.
7 o'clock meeting, right? So that works for Charlene. She's come from, I think she's over from Hanover, West
Carly,
Hanover.
you're all
She doesn't have,
Too far to go.
yeah. Unless you wanted to go earlier.
Not the first night up? So we're going to say 7 o'clock, 9/2? 7 o'clock? You're good?
7 o'clock.
All right.
You're
7.
going to advertise, right?
Are you okay with 7?
On 9/2?
9/2.
Yes.
You're one of the one. 7. Oh, it's Monday nights you have the issue.
Yeah,
got it.
7 is, works for me.
Got it. Okay.
Okay,
So
so
7 o'clock, 9/2. We'll put that out. The agenda will be almost exclusively, just in case, unless we have to move something important.
Like a personnel thing.
Some goal setting is what we'll do that night. Oh, nothing? Looked like it's on the side.
Well, actually I do, so I guess I could submit ideas or
Sure.
right before, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to make the second.
Yeah,
so.
send it over to Don.
Okay.
Best way to do it. Any other?
Yes, I have another.
Other.
About the calendar and meetings, and I don't know what you want to do with this, but while I was making sure my committee meetings and everything were on my calendar today, our second meeting in September is the
Oh,
golf outing. Like every year. No, it's always, they're always, whatever that Monday is. What is that Monday? They're always the third Monday in September. That's what they book a year in advance. At least that's what's on the district calendar, and that's been our problem every year. So I don't know what this board wants to do with it.
We could look at doing both meetings on the 21st and not doing the 28th.
No, the 21st is the
The
day.
21st is the,
That's the day of the
All right, then we
foundation.
could do both meetings on the 28th, since we're having this goal-setting meeting. And if I had like an emergency personnel thing, we could just bag the 21st. Last year, we did have a meeting and we left. We went to the I think we moved the meeting to 8 o'clock.
No, I don't remember that.
No, I
We
went
went
to the golf
7:30?
outing. I did
I was
not
there, yeah,
have
I
a
was
board
there,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember doing the dinner.
Yeah, I was there at the golf outing. I didn't
I
go
was
to
at the dinner.
Yeah, we were there.
I was there all day.
We were
We didn't
there.
have a meeting.
You're
were
talking
there
about the
all
casino night, probably, different, maybe?
No,
I don't
casino
know.
was a whole different story.
All right,
That's a
so,
Saturday night.
so maybe the best thing is to have one meeting on the 28th?
If we're gonna have the meeting on 9/2, and we give you a little bit of latitude to add in some of these sort of emergency types of scenarios
Yeah.
that need to get filled in, 9/28 makes more sense for me. What's the, any other, the board have anything else issue with that?
I think you don't really have many choices because you have holidays on the 7th and the 14th.
Oh, the 14th is a holiday.
Well, I mean, you already have a committee meeting with the semi people that's been scheduled, blah, 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 blah. But
No, so we'd have to go to 28th.
which we already are on, so.
And, I mean, I plan on being at the golf outing. Are you gonna be, anyone else gonna be at the golf outing? Just to sort of confirm that we won't have a
I'll be
quorum.
I would say I have never missed one, so.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
yeah. Yeah, right.
I typically
So-
support less meetings.
What's that?
I typically support less meetings.
Last meeting.
So you want to cancel? the
9/20.
I just think we should give enough notice that we're canceling
Yeah,
it.
yeah, totally agree.
We're gonna, when we have to advertise for the other meeting, we're gonna cancel this meeting at the same
So
time.
9/21 is gonna be
Thank you for
canceled.
pointing that out.
And as a advertisement for the foundation, if you haven't played golf with the foundation, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And the dinner is even better. Yeah. I recall, I think last year we won the Most Honest Team Award, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
The trophy's still in my office. Is the backside of a donkey.
AKA the worst school.
Oh, worst score, most honesty, whatever you want to call it. Victors we
Yeah,
were.
I've seen some of the hackers out there. I think other people were lying about their score.
That's true. It's very true. We had one ringer.
I think they had erasers on the end of the pencils, which is highly unlikely for a golf pencil.
Very true.
All right.
Thanks, Mariana, with that. Any other?
Can I just say thanks to Dr. Cullis for the new schedule and all the things she's been able to cram in as a result?
Cram is maybe not the right word.
Oh, add.
For cram, not the
Add.
category.
All the wonderful
in.
things she's been able to add as a result.
And streamline.
Streamline, efficiency. Excellent. All right, so.
Oh, one more thing.
Wait,
Dave.
before you,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, ladies first.
I was just going to say, said I would take both of these policies and fix them. I have no idea how to fix the wording on the policy, so maybe it just stays. It reads, if we want to go back to that, I fixed the one, like we said, with the 2 sentences in the period, but in accordance with the provisions of NJAC, blah, blah, and for the purposes of this policy and regulation, comma, a student's absence from school will be excused or unexcused that counts toward truancy, period. I don't know how to break that into 2 sentences.
I'm not even sure what that means.
It
doesn't mean anything.
That's what it says. So I didn't want to do that all by myself.
It's just pulled right out of the law.
Right. It's just, I don't know how, I mean, the other one, it made sense, and when somebody reads it, they're going to go, boy, they're dumb for adding the 2 sentences, but it's clear.
Can't we just call Charles Esme, ask them what they're trying to say, and then put it into English?
I think they're trying to say two different things, but they're clearly putting in the.
But when you don't, there's not enough punctuation or something, I don't know what it means. A student's absence from school will be excused
Or unexcused.
or unexcused, and only the
That
unexcused
counts, too.
one counts towards truancy. Do you want me to say
Well,
that?
that actually.
Maybe
is
it's-
Okay, I'll
closer.
say
There
that.
you go.
Or unexcused. The unexcused absence.
Yeah. Steve, I think you were on vacation a month or two ago when there was a Girl Scout that had come up and asked about the property next to or attached to Lakeview. I just wanted to make sure that was something you had kind of, I just thought of it tonight, that,
You know,
Okay, then that's how I fixed it.
I
Does that look
received an
okay?
email from the parent, and I replied back to the email, and I phone called and left a message, and haven't heard back from them since. I did say that there was a process that the person had to go through, and we didn't, what we were really trying, and I think everybody's on board with this, not to add any more unsustainable type things that people donate, do for a little while, then don't do. Like the whole back of Riverview, for example. We want it, if somebody wants to clean something up first, that's a great thing. But to build some type of another trail or path or something that our people are gonna have to maintain eventually, I wasn't really on board with that, but I never really got a chance to have a discussion with them about it, just because they never got back to me. I'm not quite sure what happened with that.
They could just be away for the summer.
Yeah. This is what you like here?
That's what we just said.
Yeah, then you're good.
I mean, it's wordy, but at least it's clear.
No policies are wordy at all, so this is certainly going to stand out. All right, any other, before we move on to the public portion? 8:54.
Oh, I was just going to comment.
Oh, for goodness
that-
sakes.
Sorry, this is quick. I didn't mention earlier, but she'd mentioned it with the budget thing. The reason that our textbooks were sort of low is that we were able to negotiate from the 83,000 originally budgeted for textbooks down to 48. And in that, they gave us K to 5 instead of just 3 to 5.
Oh, wow.
So we finished all of K to 8, or K to 5 for 48,000.
Nice work.
That's
That
fantastic.
wasn't a product of pre-buying, that was actually a product of
Good
Sandy
negotiation.
changing it.
Good job, Sandy.
Did you change this, the
I changed them both to what we discussed. One has a period and a second
A
sentence.
record
and the
shall-
other
Period.
Do you
has a
want to,
whole new sentence.
do you want to read it so we make sure we got it? or-
He's got it right. It's period, a record shall be. So Sandy, nice work with that. Thank you for doing that, obviously. All right, so now, any other before I go on to public portion? Dino, I know you want to say something.
I'm good, I know.
All right. 8:55, we'll open up the public portion of second public portion of tonight's meeting. Anything germane to the district? Just name and address for the record. I know you said it already, Dave. Old?
Just one comment. I've seen several times on various agendas over the last few years that you've been discarding books. What exactly happens when you discard books? What do you do with them?
Sometimes they get destroyed, right?
They either get thrown in the garbage or they get recycled if possible. This is after we've already gone through the process of trying to resell them, donate them, anything like that. These are books that are beyond that.
Thank you.
We're just required by law to give 6-month notice, and we put it online for any schools, private or public, who would like them. And then if no one takes them, we beg someone to take them, and no one will.
You mean nobody wants a 35-year-old history book?
I was going to say, do we get much uptake?
Then we
on
recycle
those
them.
books, or they always, they're
Well, I
always
want that
garbage?
today.
the
By the time we were getting rid of them,
Sometimes
they're
they take
basically
them.
done, yeah.
Okay.
No, sometimes
Dad's project.
Any other public comments?
What's that?
No, none?
Exactly.
From the audience? None? All right, it is 8:56. We'll close the public portion and move into the board comment section, which I know we've had mostly already. Dino is hankering to ask something or say something. A comment is forthcoming. Anything?
You're doing a great job, Dave. Other
No,
than that, I'm good.
no,
No,
I-
really.
You guys
I'm fine.
refuse
We
to
got
end
3
meetings
more
before
months.
9. I see how it is. Trying to elongate it till 9 o'clock.
No, I'm trying to get out of here. You guys kept adding others to other.
8:57, okay.
8:57, we'll close the board comment portion. Do we
I
have a
move to
need-
adjourn.
Oh, wait, do we have a need for a second? No, we sure couldn't, right?
We couldn't. We
No.
finished early.
Perfect. I'll take the motion. Go ahead, Mariana.
I move to adjourn.
And I'll second.
Mariana, Don is the second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yay.
Opposed? Abstentions? Time is 8:57. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you watching, commenting, maybe, I don't know, but thank you. It's not bad.
That was some time ago.
Off, Wayne?